So I moved here during the pandemic. My background has, I guess I have to stand in front of here, sorry. My background has been in developing companies. So I was a founder with an exit in 2012. I had a service business and didn't make enough to actually retire off of it. So like most of us, we have to keep working. And I decided to go into applied economics at Cornell and did a very large research project in New York. So that was kind of where my passion and excitement started. As part of that, right before I left my company in 2009, I started developing this approach, and I did it with multinationals, like so International Paper and Kimberly Clark I worked with at the time, Mighty Leaf Tea and Compass Group. And I was trying to figure out a solve for the future. Like, so how do we implement sustainability in these companies and still keep them moving forward, still keep their shareholders happy? So we called it a disciplined approach to growth at the time. I've since kind of evolved it into a totally different product over the last 15 years. But the cool thing is we have about 2,000 companies who have run through this program. And every single company, I mean, we're looking at huge, let's call it 43 times multiples, and some companies at 4 times multiples or some at 1. So the average has really worked out over time to about a 4 times EBITDA growth over the course of a full year. So it's amazing when you start to look at the levers you can pull in a business. It's about cash flow and also revenue generation or revenue creation. We call it raising revenue as opposed to raising capital. And that's where I've leaned in. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. My new business is focused on 3 generations ahead. So we're looking at businesses and investments that are going to actually help to sustain our future. I think we're in a crisis where if we don't start doing it now, well, we're kind of late to the party as it is. But many of the businesses out there today are just not making it. They're scientists as CEOs and not business owners who actually know anything about growing a company. And so we have to help these companies to build correctly. So the industry areas that we lean into are climate resilience, prevention, preventative health, food insecurity, new and novel ingredients, ag future and biologicals, and deep tech and cybersecurity. But what's kind of cool about this platform that you're about to see, and I'll work you through the workshop, many of these things are future-focused companies, but they start by people who actually care and want to build something real. So they are like service-oriented businesses out of the gate, very much like what you're doing. Our team is made up of subject matter experts in the fields that they're working in. So I really came from the consumer and lifestyle brand. I worked with Chobani during very high growth. So they came in at 23 million. I left at 880 million. And that was in under 4 years. So just really accelerated growth. The other folks on my team have come from tech backgrounds or have worked in things like cyber and climate. Andrew Rose is my business partner on the right. And he has, he's kind of like the ag futurist right now who's currently working on everything related to ag future. So it's been kind of an interesting group to be a part of. The companies that we work with are typically sub 25 million. And there's 2 questions that we ask the companies that come into our door. And this is true for you guys too, but are you open to evolution? So you can answer that question. I'm kind of curious. Everyone here open to evolution? I hope so. And you don't have to be future focused to go through this here, but what we're looking at, and this is real, we're just looking at your viability of your business and whether or not you're going to be able to execute, right? So we're going to create that plan with you as a company, and that's what we'll do today. And then we're going to pair you with curated resources. So we have a huge network of resources. Felicia has a huge network of resources here, and people who can actually help you with whatever it is that you run into. Most of the time, we're unlocking issues that we see. So it's a very quick, like rapid conversation that we're going through with the companies that we talk to. It's a 6-hour exercise, which I'll walk through in a second. And as we're having these conversations, we realize people often choose their team members that are their best friends. Not that they actually are great at what they do, but people that they genuinely like having around. And that often creates a huge gap in the business opportunity. They don't think about an exit. We all exit, even our own death. So you have to start thinking about that at the beginning of starting a company. What happens as I build this? And where do I take this on the other side? Often you business differently than where you've landed your business long term. So that's the why and that real evolution of change. So why you get up in the morning, you know, in year 6 is very different than why you started the company in year 1. and helping yourself to feel okay about the why and how that's evolved is really important. On the product side, we find that people get really great at one thing. They're linear thinkers, and often they get amazing at that one product, but they've thought about dimensionality. So thinking product line extensions, thinking about a product prism. There might be active and passive and referral sales that are coming through different channels, and that you're not just focused on that one and done, that one consistent single sales channel. Operationally, many of the companies that we've talked to just don't go out to bid again. So they get started and moving in the right direction, and then they just stay in that direction. So there's leaving a lot of opportunity and money on the table. From a capital standpoint, financial acumen is our number one. So we put everyone through a forensic, and we have a great partner that does that through AI. It's amazing what you'll find and what people are spending their money on and how disorganized their books are and what they can actually see. So my favorite people in the whole world are forensic accountants, because they tell you everything you need to know. And then of course, capital. But we've all leaned into capital in very specific terms. There's like 5 subsets of capital that we think about. But there's a full spectrum of opportunity in capital markets. And so when I think capital, I start aligning the resources, the right kind of capital to the right kind of opportunity and what you're working to do. It could be project finance, or it could be thinking about working capital requirements or revenue-based financing for something that you might be able to very quickly pay back. So using capital as leverage and as a tool. And then lastly, amplification, which I think we all would say, maybe not, but that amplification is hard. Sales are hard. It's hard for everyone. So how can we do it in a way that's actually disciplined and it's consistent and it's not something that we have to think about? There's no quantitative, it's only quantitative. There's no qualitative metrics that we're thinking about. It's really like we are consistently doing the same thing every day because we know it works. So that's Superstruct in a nutshell. And our process is really simple. We take them through the 6-hour exercise. We do typically 2 3-hour sessions. And then we build a sprint calendar at the end of it. As part of that, we align them to resources. And then typically the company executes on the growth, and we're there to check in once a month with them or twice a month, depending on what they need. So this is what it looks like a little bit. I guess when it downloaded, it changed, but I think this is fine. And it is a scientific approach to growth. It's very, very simple. It's shockingly simple. And I've got a couple of examples to show you guys. Our fee is, I'm not pitching it to you, but just to tell you so that you can understand how amazing this is. It's $1,900 a month. And we have like 40 or so clients that work with us. And that's how we make it as a team. And we're not really trying to accelerate too quickly. Our goal is actually to just help as many companies and work them through this and be able to have the proof cases on the other side. I have a long-term vision, which I pitched the last time I was here 2 years ago, before I went into private credit. And that's what I'm really excited about. And that goes live in 2030. It's a research project. So this is all to kind of in favor of that and help to stimulate the market, keep these businesses alive so that we can keep moving forward as a society. So the interesting part is 100% of the businesses that we see, the first thing they say to us when they walk into the room is, we need capital. I'm like, why do you need capital? And they say for growth and for runway. What does runway mean to you? Anyone? Yeah. To just elongate the sales cycle, right? Like why not just go get a sale tomorrow? Well, I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not actually sure how I do that. I really need more runway. No, you just need a sale. So we all are in that boat, right? And there's a cadence to it and there's an environment. It's not true for every business, but for the most part, what we lean into is that repeatable experience. So when we start to dig into these companies, what we realize is that 1 out of these 7 companies who have said that they need capital or they said that they need runway, there's really only 1 in 7 of them that need capital or they're going to go out of business. So we find that capital just becomes an extension of the problem. And the opportunity is actually that we can give you capital, but I can guarantee you by this time next year, you're going to be back asking for more with the same issues. You need to actually solve the problem. So once we solve that problem, then we come back to them and we do help to capitalize them. We have everyone on the spectrum of capital. And our hope is, these are like the 5 big ones that everyone's aware of, but we start to get really creative with different strategies. And we work with a lot of family offices, and the hope is actually to build ultimately a cooperative fund where everyone wins, and we're all leaning into this opportunity to capitalize the right opportunities together. These are the areas that we lean into. I'm going to glaze over because it's not important, but it's really 75 different strategic partners. So if you do any of these things, reach out because we're always resourcing for our clients. And then in the community here, we have a bunch of partners, but we also, these are folks that we have referral agreements with. So like HubSpot, we get 30% in perpetuity for anyone that signs up. And if you're working in a service business, I would recommend doing something similar and just signing these guys up. It's free cash flow. And one that you should be aware of if you are looking for capital is CXM loans. They're out of Fairfield County. They're a local business, and there's about 65 lenders on the platform. So if you're interested, you can just put it in your information. It'll tell you a score and how many lenders could potentially match with you. It's a really great resource.
Okay. So Gusto and what is it? Gusto, HubSpot, again, is stuff free?
So with HubSpot, I'm a referral partner. So when I turn on my clients to use HubSpot, I get 30% of their monthly fee that they spend. And then I also do all the onboarding. So I get about $5,000 for the onboarding that you would normally give to HubSpot. Yeah, and there's a couple of other big ones out there that do that. Gusto is another really good one because for every time you run a payroll, you get so the company that you're working with runs a payroll, you also get a little cash. So it's just like free money sitting on the table.
There's so many affiliates out there. They're almost all up. And push them to the bottom, just click affiliate.
And I look at it like
the board CRM.
We've done the work, right? Like we've already done the work to know that it's the right one. So you have a whole network of people here who trust you. And it's a great opportunity to actually say, I'm using this and it works really well. Don't do the research and homework, just buy it and I'll help you. I love Fathom. If you haven't used Fathom before, to me, this is like the future. It syncs with HubSpot, and every time my team has a conversation with anyone, like a sales call or whatever, I have full recordings, and it has an AI software, so I can search by it. So if I want to pull up an old quote or a conversation in 2 seconds, I can pull it up, and it's accountability, so it's quite nice. I actually can't do anything without it. So I'm going to give you guys a quick project example. This is a brand who first of all, I love it because I love the mission and what they're all about. They're a certified B Corp, and they work with very high-end fabrics and quality materials around the world for a pretty good price. So let's call it a Banana Republic level pricing scenario. And they came in the door and they were like, look, we've tried everything, but the bottom line is there's something wrong with our company. We don't know why we're not growing at the exponential rate that we believed we could. And I started digging into the business, and we had an amazing conversation with the team for about 4 hours was the first call, and maybe 3 hours the second call. And they did homework in the middle, and they really got into it and started working with it together. And we had amazing feedback on the other side. What we realized is that they were actually attacking the problem from the wrong angle. They had developed a product. They had not developed a lifestyle or a community. And this is true for a lot of businesses. It's not rocket science to figure out the problem. But what we leaned into, that actually they weren't passionate about it. So they were developing a business. And again, it did not match their why, and their customer didn't understand their why. So at the end of the day, that was the real problem. They've made all these pivots and they're finally growing again. And this is in a 6-month window, which is kind of incredible. So just to give you like a couple of points that are important, that their vision is to actually change the world and be the gold standard for how you produce clothing, so that there's no longer these types of materials out there in the world. They want to actually be the change makers. So they have this desire to create a community of other change makers alongside of them. And their challenges were that they had like all these messages out there, and that one of the issue around clarity was that they were trying to do too many things at once. And then on the community side, they kept saying over and over again, and I think a lot of us use this framing, we're not good at it, right? So not good at, what are you not good at? If you take that, and we use this in our micro-pivot scenario, which I'll share with you guys the exercise on that, which we did. When you say you're not good at something, it starts to become a little bit of a nag, and it's something you should lean into. So rip off the Band-Aid what you're not good at. And what they were not good at is a disciplined approach to community. So they just weren't doing it. It wasn't that they weren't good at it. It's that they weren't putting the time. They weren't trying to actually build a community. They built a clothing brand. And all their time and attention was building the clothing brand, not into the other part, which was build the community. And what they would have realized, and they're actually a high net worth individual couple, what they would have realized is they would have spent a lot less money because they wouldn't have put money into building a clothing line. They would have actually created energy and community together first. And then the community would have told them what they wanted. And so now they're in the process of kind of unwinding it and resetting that whole model. They have the clothing, they're out in the market today. This is step one for them. But they're kind of spending less money on the production and more money on the community. So what I loved is when we do this exercise, which you'll have access to, is what are we not? We really learned into very, very clear language that people use all the time. And you don't think that you're using it, but whatever it is, it needs to be on paper so that your whole team can actually roll up to it. And they can all believe in your strategy. So what are we not is actually a really hard thing to state. And theirs was, we're not demonizing and we're not divisive. So they didn't want anything polarizing, which is actually really hard in business to have something that's not polarizing, because you don't quickly gain a following when you're just vanilla, right? So you're trying to be everything to everybody. So that was a hard nut to crack, and we had to do a lot of research on different brands out there that had tried to not be polarizing in any way and just be vanilla. And we found a couple, and they became a good starting point for them. But this is going to be an area where they really have to build in to their business model that they're not a binary company. They're actually for everyone. They're one people, and that's the model of their business. So for better or worse, we had like 12 what are we's and 8 what are we nots. And these are the ones we've really landed on as the go forward that they then market and share with their team. We also have this really cool product called the life cycle of a business. This is based on the Bleicher method. It's a German tool. And what I love about this tool is that if you think about Amazon, Amazon began as a digital online book retailer, right? And now they're AWS, and they're a grocery store, and they own Whole Foods, and they have had conferences. They focus on diversity. They have a two-sided marketplace. They have their own white label product line. I mean, the list goes on and on. They have a fleet of trucks. They've built their own packaging plants. They have robotics they've invested in. So how did they get there? How did Apple start out as a hardware company and now has a movie studio? You know, the reality is that we all get to these what we call crisis points, which are these points in the middle that you'll see here. I have a different slide for this that I'll show you that will help you a little bit. You have to anticipate the crisis point. COVID was a crisis point. Your business running out of money is a crisis point. How do you actually get to the crisis point before you get there? How do you anticipate what that's going to look like? Now, this is an interesting one because everyone also deviates, right? We all kind of like try to fall off the cliff on our own, where we do it naturally. The real challenge is we're going to deviate, and we know that. So anticipate the deviation, and the opportunity for you to lean into is to say, oh my God, I've gotten too far down the line. You're not going to be able to scale the mountain up. You actually have to go back to the line, to your core product, to the core thing that you know the most, get back to your brass tacks of what you know well, and then rebuild from there. What happens is most companies fall off the cliff. They have run out of money, they've run out of steam. They don't try to go back to the line. They actually try to do something new. And that's where they fail. So we look at fail safes in every single point of what we're building. And we keep coming back to how can we actually build something sustainably? How can we build a disciplined approach to growth? How can we not cannibalize ourselves in the process? Then we take a stealth sales approach with one thing that we built. And I will show you guys, I think it's here. So this is our active, passive, and referral sales channel. Most people have one lever that they're pulling, and they're like, oh, I'm not doing well with Google ads. And I'm spending a lot of money on my Google ads right now, and it's not converting. Well, the real issue is that you don't have enough stuff going on. So I look at it as you need a minimum of 12, and you should have 4 in every category. So you have active, which is your most expensive customer that you're seeking. So in this case, these are people that are they are your ideal client profile, and you are going after them. with all of your energy and time. Call it 80% of your energy is going after your active customer channel. Passive is your blog, your SCM, or your SEO, your podcast, your press. That is all passive sales that's coming in the door. They want you. So it's your least expensive sale. The referral side is the approach that HubSpot and Fathom that we just talked about. We are incentivizing people that already have trusted audiences to bring us customers. And that becomes an actual profit center. So when you start thinking about product opportunity, I look at referral as its own thing. It is actually below the line. It's not an above the line marketing expense. It's something that provides you with revenue. So it's actually not something that you have to worry about. It should be a one-to-one, should be an opportunity for growth. So going back to our self-sales strategy, what we do is we select one of those things, we put it in the middle, and then we just blow out an entire concept around it. And so for each of these 12, we have another 12 bubbles. And those are things that we're working on to help illuminate the opportunity that we have in real time. It's a lot of work. When we finish a project, this is where we land, where we've created a world on the left-hand side of what the business is going to look like. And then we have 3 next steps. And in this case, I built out 2 quarters for him. So I have 3 next steps in the first quarter and 3 next steps in the second quarter of what he can work on. And they are really moving. The goal is to get them to December and be at double their revenue. And if they can do that, they'll get the investors in the door that they've been seeking. So totally different than just a clothing brand. They've built a totally different business at this point. And each one is revenue generative. Their resources are sellable. Their tribe is actually something that's going to give them revenue. And then in here, we ended up leaning into 3 different categories of where we ended up supporting them. And then we bring people in from our community. I talk about Pete Sen a lot. He's one of my best friends, but we also have another business together called The Resonance, where we build out new products. And when we build a new product from scratch, let's say that the cost is between $30,000 and $100,000. And within a couple months, we can be at an MRR of about 25 to 50. And it's been incredible. So we're working with content creators and distribution channels to get it out to market, like LinkedIn as an example. And we build out these really cool little modules. And so if anyone has an audience, this is a great opportunity because it's a very inexpensive lift to build a very quick recurring revenue-based product. And that's something we talk about a lot here. So in their case, as the example with Pete, he's coming up with communication and work. But if I wanted to on the product side, eventually, we could say, you guys have done such a great job with your community and blown it out of the water. Why don't we create a tool where they can actually write content and we'll sell that as a monthly recurring product for them. Okay, so this is the fun stuff. And this is the 5-part exercise that we'll do today. I did send out a link to everyone's email this morning. Did you get it? Okay. And if not, I can text it to you right now, or we can do it after the fact. So this is the model. So who are you? Let's chart your course, which is the Bleicher method. We're gonna get super clear on your why. We won't do the why exercise, but I have a video in the deck I sent you that I highly recommend you go through. And then we're gonna create that kind of product prism, the dimensional opportunity that you have. And we're gonna try to get the team on board to growth. So on your piece of paper, what's your product? What's the problem or opportunity that you're selling? What's the data on that problem? You should have this slide. If you don't have it, you can just write it down on a piece of paper. And try to think about the magic that you're bringing to the table. What's unique about it that's different than your competition? Colored pencils, if anyone wants. All right, everyone good there? Does anyone want to call out what they do? Christine, you want to try?
Sure.
Okay.
Design for Growth is your one-stop shop for graphic design, print and web, and digital marketing, social and email marketing.
And what's special about what you do?
I'm one person who does it all.
Do you have something that's a little bit unique, like a magic component that you bring to the table? Like, why growth?
Did you know that every dollar spent on email marketing should generate at least a $26 return?
And you can do that every time? That's amazing. And what would be a way that you beat out your competition right now?
I just sent a cold email to 80 people and 67 opened it and read it.
I think that's pretty much proof of concept. It's great. Anyone else want to go? No? Okay. Michelle, do you want to try? You want to try?
Yeah. I was like, so I guess the problem is that longer shows are less popular today. So one of my dream was to be this talk show host. It was hour-long segments on mainstream TV, and now everybody wants to know how to make an entire dinner in 30 seconds or less on a reel.
10, you'll see that.
And I can, but it's the post. So the data on the problem is in the numbers, you know, literally in the numbers. You look at where mainstream TV is going and where social media is going. And the magic I bring is, I think I bring more sincerity back with really good recipes for whole families in money saving capacities for this day and age. There's not a lot of people for kids, so I think that's kind of my magic. I'm very funny and drop eggs. I mean, I don't want to drop eggs, but it happens. So I'm all about live, but live segments are long. So then how I view the competition is figuring out a way to bring my magic in a condensed way with still being authentic. And I've struggled with how to stay authentic in 90 seconds because that's really real.
10
Love that.
supporting us right now. If that gives you any idea.
It gives me 9 more minutes to get the rest done.
I love that, but maybe as part of it, just to throw it out there, like maybe it's actually not about the meal, but it's about that humor that you bring, and then they can watch a longer video later, and that really the reel is capturing the attention with that authenticity. So I don't know, but there's something there when you start thinking about your magic, lean into it. Don't actually try to do what everyone else is doing, because that's how people fail. The opportunity for you to stand out and to be alive is to lean into that thing that you know best around your magic. Just fun. And I want to see you drop an egg. I think that would be hilarious.
They saw him.
It was memorable. It was real.
And that stuff happens all the time.
And it happens.
But and what I love about it is because it's live, you get that authenticity. So I hit it for the head. I mean, I really am authentic.
You dropped your lipstick yesterday.
I drop my bro. Yeah, because I start all my feet with hello gorgeous, can we talk? And I
So Michelle's challenge is, how do you get something down to 90 seconds and still have it be authentic and all the things that you need? You guys all have different challenges. So Catherine, maybe what's yours?
I'm an ADHD coach in a fairly busy market. So finding that unique magic key is the part that I would struggle with.
Well, what would,
I'm like, oh, I'm another ADHD coach.
so give me a little bit more color on what makes you special, and when you're talking to the kids that you're working with, or adults.
Only adults, so
Okay.
that's niche one. And prior to this, I'd only been doing productivity in business, but what's happening is people are starting to approach me, asking for help for how they do their systems at home. How do they have a morning routine? How do they have an evening routine? How can they be better to their spouse, because the spouse is neurotypical, that kind of thing. So I feel like I'm broadening, which is kind of freaky when trying to niche.
So that might be a challenge. But how do you, I guess, in the conservation of your power is the most important part, where you're not like all over the place, because the repeatable tools are the things that make you work faster and more efficiently. So what would be the disciplined approach to that expansion for you?
I'm not sure yet. Part of me is, I'm finding I'm enjoying it and I'm really loving it. And I'm thinking I might actually shift, but then I was worried I might be falling off a cliff. So I'm kind of freaking out about that now.
Maybe there's one common toolkit that can be an established toolkit that you can use in every scenario. And then you're able to just pull out product A, product D, depending on the person that you're working with.
Right.
So that you don't actually have to build something new and it's all templatized out of the gate.
Yeah, a lot of what I have is templatized,
That's perfect.
which is good. But there could be more.
Because I think if you're not moving into new markets, then you end up dying on the vine, right? Because the important part is actually going where the trends are, where people are interested. And so maybe it's actually hiring a person that can manage the old business and keep that maintained with the tools you've already templatized. So as you grow, the opportunity for you to conserve your power is in
You're thinking
the,
how much bigger than I am.
I think the opportunity is huge. So.
It's so many times, and I so admire. I mean,
Yeah, but
interior design for ADHD, and then this. I mean,
Yeah, with interior design, and then it was like setting up productive environments, like kind of organizing. And so I morphed from office design, office organization, productivity to ADHD.
Yeah, I kind of love
But
that.
I'm getting the clients are not just ADHD, so I'm kind of leaning to the word neurozesty,
Oh,
which no one's using, and I bought the .com. So,
I love
yeah,
that.
just as something to make me sound a little more unique.
So you brought up an interesting point, and that's on micropivots, which we're going to talk about next. And I think the idea of micropivoting, I would lean into. So don't lean out of it. Lean into how you can pivot comfortably into that next thing. So again, like Amazon, they're a virtual bookstore, and now they're a movie studio in AWS. They did pivots along the way, micro pivots, maybe even major overhaul pivots. Don't get freaked out by that. Just offer yourself the opportunity to always go back to the line. You know your core competency, you know your core base. Keep going back to that line. Anyone else want to share a challenge before we move forward? Here we go. Yeah.
I'd say the biggest challenge starting my company was basically getting clientele. We spent a lot of money buying leads, and not all the leads were. 75% of the leads weren't good. We didn't really want to go door knocking because we're not a big fan of basically harassing homeowners. Maybe one. So
As a homeowner, I appreciate you.
Yes.
So yeah, and it's on our screen right now. Oh.
So we kind of came up with an idea that's basically switch the referral aspect of things where we partner up with like realtors and a lot of businesses that's in homes, and just we don't it's not a hard sell for us. So it's like, hey, if you ever think about this in the near future, just reach out to us. We're not going to be harassing you.
what is your business?
So that's it.
So the crisis point for you is bad leads and no sales. That's the crisis point. The opportunity that you leaned into, which was to conserve your power, was we can't actually go door knocking. That's too hard. So how do we do this in a way that's efficient? So you conserved your power. And that was the language that you were probably thinking about as you were imagining it. I can, even if it weren't those exact words.
How about if you monitor the new home sales and then you send them like a correspondence in the mail?
That is another avenue we took, basically sending mailers. But
Mhm.
we didn't see a big success with the mailers. But I mean, we only tried it for 2 months. So that's really good.
I can help you out. Like our office for real estate, we have people come to our Friday meetings and talk in person. And I think that then you get an opportunity for people to
a
see
great idea.
you, hear your product. You know, pool companies come, insurance companies come. They're obviously, and it's helpful for the realtors because we now have something to talk about. And it's a way for us to market like, oh, we had this
I love that.
person come in today and talk to us about solar power, and this is what I learned about it. Want more information? So you're actually doing the realtors service by giving us content while still getting your word and product out there.
So maybe you and Christine could work together on a marketing campaign through email that you could serve to realtors and then come out and do like a lunch and learn.
Thank you so much.
Love that.
I think this would be like-
Marie, you had your hand up.
comment on?
Yeah, go for it.
Micropivoting? I have a question. What can you describe?
Yes, yes. Okay, so this is so,
Micropivoting goes to what you're talking about. In the graph where you're
Falling off the cliff.
you know, you're-
Yeah,
you're-
totally. So this is the simplest thing, and we all learned it in the third grade. We just don't remember it. What are the things that you need to stop that are not serving you anymore? What do you need to start doing today that might be an opportunity that you're excited about? What makes you excited when you wake up and you think about it? And what do you know is working and you should continue? So every day for 5 minutes, sit quietly with a cup of tea, wine, whatever, at the end of your day, and lean into your gut. Don't lean into what you think or what you know you should think. What's nagging at you? What's that thing that's really kind of irritating you? And it keeps showing up for you day after day after day. And so on Monday, sit down, do this. Tuesday, do it. Wednesday, like every day of the week. On Friday, you're going to look at all 5 of these pages together. If you have more than 3 days with the same thing showing up, just cut it out of your life. Whatever it is, just take a break from it. And so if you're bothered, it's an opportunity to just stop. If there's something that keeps showing up under start, make your next plan for the following week to start one of those things on that list.
What if it's not closely aligned?
What is it? Give me the example. Give me the polarization. Doesn't have to be exact examples. Like totally different industry?
No, still within the main market. So I'm a marketing strategist. And so I help small businesses figure out what they should do with their marketing, how to get it done. From a
Great.
systems and standpoint. And something that the itch that I've had, that I actually am moving. It's been something that was nagging, and I decided to do something about that, is to give it to brand photography. I've always enjoyed photography. I don't have my technical skills up, so I partnered with a photographer, but I'm putting together doing a small group branding photography. So it's still within the marketing context, but it is a departure from a little bit from what I've been doing.
But you're not giving up the other thing, right?
No.
Yes,
I mean,
you're
at
good.
some point, and I see that some of my clients have a need for this, but it's not meant to be a follow-on or attached to it necessarily. It's just something that I did, and I found, actually, we were in a session together, that's how we met about 3 years ago. I found the concept brilliant, and
And you're making
and
you're making money off of it.
hope to. I mean, we're gonna do a pilot on this.
Great.
hopefully next month, but I'm saying it's, my main question is, not to talk about doing, but like, the main question is, you know, it's still within the vein of marketing, but it's not exactly what I've been doing, so I guess I'm having trouble with, my challenge is to try to figure out how to, not market it together, but how to bring it together.
So I would imagine that this is a direct offer to any client that you have, actually very naturally. And I would encourage you to say, this is something that is a follow-on. So don't use the language, it's not a follow-on. It is actually a follow-on, and you've done it because you recognize the need for it and what you're building.
But the original idea was more along the lines of saying, what is it that's, you know, excites you? What is that, you know, that's what it. That's
So, like,
and now I'm trying to fit it back. I feel like I'm trying to fit it back.
Which is actually okay. It's the way it be, because if it naturally grows out of it, sometimes you don't intentionally think about it as its own entity or its own thing. It could be a spin-off company eventually, right? And you could think about it like an AWS and a virtual bookstore. They're very different. But if there is an integration opportunity, I mean, we all know the journey of Amazon. So it's easy for us to look at that and say, oh yeah, we can see and understand the progression of how it got here. But if you were to say from day one, you're going to eventually be a data site and you're also going to be a virtual bookstore, I don't think that would have connected in the same way. So the way I see you going is you have a new product. You've just dimensionally developed something new for your business and leverage it. Be excited about it.
Thanks for that.
I'm excited.
I think when you're in your own thinking, I'll say.
100%. So this is the what are we not? I don't have to explain this, but I would be hypercritical on what you are and what you're not. Like, lean into it, because this is your opportunity to be very clear on your business. And it's like, you know, Felicia might say, we are not a C-store. We're not a convenience store, right? Like, that's an example of what we're not. We are a holistic community. We are about bringing people together. So think about what it is that you are as a business and really try to be critical and calculated in that approach. So now we're going to chat about the course. And this is all in that email. I'll send you another follow-up after this just so you have it again. Think about what you hope to achieve. That's the pinnacle of success. We don't have to get there in, you know, a particular mile marker, and it doesn't have to be part of a restructure. It could be something else, but this is the traditional life cycle of a business where you would actually begin as a pioneer in something, and then ultimately you would restructure out. Because again, we all exit even in our own death. And if we are leaving this to children, that's a restructure. If we're putting this on an IPO, that's a restructure. There's always going to be something that you have to move into. Think about where you might deviate. And again, those are crisis points that I'm pointing down. You have technically 5 crisis points in any early stage startup, probably in the first year. So you could use this as a first year cycle if that's important to you and just wipe out the language at the bottom. Market adoption or market fit is the most important part to focus on. The second you have that, it gives you legs to the business, which is why you see these branches start spouting up. But I like to think about it like you're climbing a mountain and you get to the very top of the mountain, and what are you excited about? And to me, it's going to be different at different stages of the business because that's just who I am. Depends on the kind of person that you are. So fill this out and you're welcome to send it to me. Again, remember, if you go too far down the path, you will fall off the cliff and it will be hard to get back. So figure out what those metrics are that you're leaning into and thinking about so that you know that you can go back to the line and you still have enough runway to get there. The why is something we all need to focus on. We forget about it. And there's a lot of other people that come in and they say, well, I want it to be about the how or the what and whatever else. Now I think we have a who, and that's the latest learning on the Simon Sinek scale. Is everyone familiar with Simon? No? Oh yeah, yes, no?
Oh, yeah, sounds nice.
Yeah, so he's worth looking at. There's an exercise I really like that he does, which is different than his why exercise, which is the golden circle, right? The golden principle of like what pulls at your heartstrings so much that you want to wake up in the morning and do what you're doing every day. As founders, as business owners, we're not normal. We're not the people who are going to be comfortably able to sit at a desk at somebody else's shop and continue to do what they want you to do. We want to do something different with our lives. So what I like that he developed is this, your contribution to provide the impact. So what is the contribution that you're actually putting out into the world, and what's the impact you really want to have for it? That's easier for me to fulfill than a why, because that ultimately is my why. So look at the video and go through the exercise, it's worth it. Then what I do is I put that word that we came up with. So in my case, what I'm trying to accomplish is I believe there's a better way to do this, that we're sick, sad, unhealthy, and unhappy as a society. And there has to be a better way to build a community and a world. And we can only do it if these businesses stay in business, so we can help fix some of these really, really big issues that we're dealing with climate change. And so that's my why. Like, we're here to do this, and I believe that we can lean in and do it differently. So the word that I would use is do it different or different. And then I would build out an explanation or a vocabulary lesson on what that means to me and what are the words that I'm really leaning into. And then I would use that to develop out my KPIs. So if the word different is there, one of the KPIs would be how many businesses this year would have gone out of business that I've touched that actually stayed in business. And that's my KPI. Another KPI would be, what's the revenue and the market adoption that I've seen from these companies? How many lives are we touching? So it can be different for every business that you're working with. But I think that there's an opportunity for all of us to lean into quantitative and qualitative metrics around your business. Okay, so this is dimensional opportunity. And this is really important. I don't know how familiar you guys are with your ICP, but you all started talking about the customers you serve in your ideal client profile when we were talking about our product and who you're selling it to. Lean into the language that you were talking about, come up with a visual for that person, come up with the details of that person, you know, where they're located, what their headspace is when they first start talking to you, what you want them to feel on the other side. And from there, you build out your product Prism. Again, this has 12 lines on it. Doesn't have to be 12 products, but I bet you can probably come up with 12 products that are pretty simple. And think about things like affiliate partnerships as that referral side. There's no reason why you shouldn't. And then you move into the active, passive, and referral. And again, the top part is going to be the spend. That's the high cost. So that's your SEM, that's your direct one-on-one relationships, your cold outreach, whatever. The passive is your email campaigns, your SEO. And then the referral being people that you partnered with. So I have tons of partners, but I've partnered specifically with CXM Loans as an example. So they are a direct referral partner. I earn every time they send somebody to me and vice versa. So they're earning something off of me. And it's a brilliant way of building out a partnership because at the end of the day, we're only in this to do business, to make money, in my opinion. Otherwise, we should just go hang out with our kids. So pick one of those that you've come up with, put it into your sales strategy, and then start to build out a world for it. And I like to think about it like a world. Like, what are all the things that you have to do? What we're doing right now for HAYVN Halftime is part of one of the HAYVN's worlds that we're building. It's an event world, and we're all in it together to participate, and that's how we're connecting, and that's why we're here. And that becomes part of that marketing strategy for coming here. And then holding everyone accountable is really important. So this is the nuts and bolts of what we put together. We start with a decision tree. So does it deliver on whatever your goal is for the month or the quarter, you choose. On my end is, does it deliver on revenue generation every single time? So I never deviate from that. If it's non-revenue generative, why are we doing it? Or if it's community building for one people, they're going to say, if it's not community building, why are we doing it? And then you build out operational, financial, brand, and customer goals. Brand is really like sales, anything related to the brand, sales, communications, marketing, whatever. On the financial side, what I would say is I need to touch 45 people in order to bring in 5 clients, as an example. And that goes under my brand goals to meet my financial requirements. Does that make sense? So I have a worksheet for this if you actually want it, if you're into numbers, where you can plug in, and it's all based on your own metrics that you know about your life and your work. But the best thing to do is actually to do a demo or a test with your customer segment and see what returns. So the example is, if I send out 2,000 emails, cold emails, I get 100 responses back or opens. And then out of the 100 opens, I get 5 people who've emailed me a request. That's your metric, 2,105. And then you can build out a percentage for anything else that you do in the future and keep testing that segment.
Or is that your own?
It's your own based on your test. So take your list of whatever you're doing and just give it a try.
No, I'm aware of the industry.
Oh yeah. I don't use the industry numbers because I think it's different for every event. And so I just use my own, because I would say, and I know we have to wrap up, but yeah, I would use your own and actually do a test to see what it lands on. The last 2 are really on this quarterly sprint calendar theory. So this is all in here and you can read the article, which is in the Learn More button. So I believe that a lot of companies fall apart at the seams because we overextend ourselves and then we just drop off. So if you can think about this like going up a set of stairs, you actually have to methodically walk your way through it. Don't overspend, don't overdo. Give it about 85%. And when you get to that point of 85, stop doing what you're doing, take a look at it and go the other way. We call it rise and glide. And we put it all into this quarterly calendar planning exercise. So we take the metrics from the decision tree, we build it into here for that quarter, and then we follow this plan of this acceleration and then the stabilization of it. We pump for 6 weeks, we pause for 6 weeks. And it's in everything that we do, from a product development to a sales development. And we do this with all of our customers. So it's kind of cool. So we do it into 2-week cycles. So the example being the 2,000 emails, what we would say is active or passive sales. We're going to send out 2,000 emails. Our expectation from that is that we're going to get 5 responses, or ultimately that we're going to actually have as conversations. And so then that's going to move into the following week. And we have to decide what we need to do there. And we're building out the revenue in each of these buckets. Normally, you don't have anything in the first 6 weeks of revenue. And the revenue actually starts trickling in the following 6 weeks, depending on your business. So it's useful to have something like that. That's the last slide. But you guys can always reach out, and then everything is freeware on my site. So the goal of this was just to get it out to the world and use it. Thank you guys. Thanks for letting me be here. Thank you.